Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Alright, so remember now to subscribe, like, comment and share. Alright, so today we are moving on to Agricultural Science SBA Part 2. Alright, so if you have missed Part 1, subscribe to Al's Agrology Mecca. Alright, so Agricultural Science School-Based Assessment Outline Part 2. And we are going to pick up where we stopped in Part 1. Now we are looking at collection of data. Alright, here are some photos that shows the collection of data. However, remember to label your pictures and indicate how you have collected the data depicted in each photo. Also, labels should be placed at the bottom or below or underneath each photograph. Now that you have collected your data, you want to indicate your result. And so we have a table and you present your result on a table. For the first column, it shows week 1. So weeks 1 to 6, and we have total feed. We also have the dressed weight and we have feed conversion ratio. Now for column 2, we have the result from the set of birds that were fed on mash and pellet. And these birds were fed on mash for the first 2 weeks and pellet from 3 to 6 weeks. While in column 3, we have the set of birds that were fed on mash only for weeks 1 to 6. Here we have the total feed for both sets of birds. And so for the first set, we have 343.8 pounds of feed consumed by the set of birds that ate mash and pellet, and 455.1 pounds consumed by the birds that ate mash only. However, even though these birds consumed less feed, they produced more pounds of meat. And so we have 288 pounds for dressed weight after removing the offals and neck and foot and so forth. And so we have 167 for this set. Now we also want to look at our feed conversion ratio. How do we find our feed conversion ratio? We have our total amount of feed consumed, and we are going to divide that by our dressed weight, which gives us our feed conversion ratio. So for this batch, they ate 1.2 pounds of feed to put on 1 pound of meat. And for this batch, they ate 2.7 pounds of feed to put on 1 pound of meat. So they ate more feed to put on 1 pound of meat. Alright, so you have your results, and after results you want to interpret the result that you have. And so we are going to look at interpretation of results. Now, interpreting your results, you have to analyze the data in the table. So we have a sample here, and this is figure 1, and figure 1 shows the consumption of feed from week 1 to week 6 for both sets of birds. Right? So in week 1 and 2, both sets of birds have the same amount of feed consumed because they were eating the same type of feed. However, for weeks 3 to 6, those that were fed on pellet and mash ate less feed than those that were fed on mash only. And notice the amount of feed consumed. In week 3, those that were fed on mash only, that's week 3, right? They ate 18 pounds of feed less than those that were fed on both mash and pellet. While in week 6, right, those that were fed on mash only consumed 59 pounds more feed than those that were fed to on mash and pellet. And so you have to analyze your data. Don't just put the data in the table, explain what the data is saying. After analyzing your data, you want to present your information. And so you can present them on bar charts. You can use line graphs. Here we have a sample bar chart showing the feed consumption for 6 weeks for both sets of birds. Those in green showing for mash and pellet. Those in yellow showing for mash only. And so we have the total feed consumption per set. So each set of bird. So the ones that were fed on mash and pellet at 343.8 pounds, while those that were fed on mash only at 455.1 pounds of feed. Remember, you have to label your graphs. And not only, but you have to analyze the information in the table, explain what the information is saying, and you have to do that separately. Use words such as more or less. So they ate 10 pounds more or 10 pounds less, or the feed consumption was constant for 3 weeks, or it declined. Explain. Use those words in your explanation or your analysis of your data. All right, so we continue with presentation of data. And here we looked at the amount of feed ate by each set of birds, and you add those together and we have 798.9 pounds. Now we want to find that in percentage, and this is what we do. 343.8 divided by 798.9 times 100, and this set of birds would have ate 43%, while those fed on mash only would have ate 57%. Remember, we are presenting the data, so we want to present this. And you can use a pie chart to present and also label your pie chart. Now, remember, analyze the data again. What is this pie chart telling us? What is the information in it? Explain. All right, we continue with presentation of data. And so this is the amount of meat that is produced by, or that was produced by both sets of birds. And remember, you start weighing your birds from day old up to 6 weeks. And then now this is the data, and you'll compare the data for both sets to see which one produced more meat each week and for the end of the period in total. All right, again, analyze the data presented and use charts and graphs to depict the information in the table, and also remember to label your charts and your graphs. Now that you have presented your data, you want to discuss the information, and the information should be discussed using relevant literature that is related to your experiment or the information or the result that you have. Here is a sample. According to Ramhara Singh, 2011, a ration refers to the type, quality, and quantity of food that is fed to a particular form animals or groups of animals. The main importance of a ration is to supply animals with nutrients needed to perform certain types of work or tasks or for specific purposes, such as growth and lactation. Lactation is giving milk. Gestation is the period when they are pregnant, or reproduction and maintenance. We have two types or different types of ration. Two types would be maintenance and production ration. Also, in your discussion, indicate whether or not your problem statement that you use in your investigation was proven correctly or not proven correctly. So go back and look at your problem statement. Continuing with your discussion, and this is just a sample of some things that could be in your discussion. The set of birds that was fed with mash and pellet feed grew bigger and faster than those that were fed on mash only. Right? You can also have citation. So you have your citation here, and it states reason for the enhanced performance of pellet feed may be due to the increased digestibility. Right? You also have another citation here from LV et al. 2015, and it says observe that feed intake increased as particle size increased, resulting in increased growth rate of birds. Reason why those that were fed mash and pellet produced more pounds of feed. Also speak to the dressed weight of both sets of birds, as well as the average weight of each set of birds. For example, the birds fed with mash and pellet feed weighed an average of 5 pounds, while birds fed with mash feed only had an average dressed weight of 4.5 pounds. Also, speak to the mortality rate and how it affects the amount of money that you would have gotten, your profitability. Also, in your discussion, compare the experiment, your experiment with the results or experiment in the literature, with yours, and also indicate if there are any similarities or differences between your investigation and those that are in the literature. These are just a few things that can be in your discussion. Now you're finished with your discussion and you want to conclude, because that's the reason why you carried out the experiment in the first place, right? Look at your aim, look at your design brief, look at your problem statement. Now you can conclude that the difference in the total cooked protein supplied by the ration given to broiler birds significantly affects the profitability. You can also conclude based on your results, based on your aim, based on your problem statement. Also indicate which feed will allow the farmer to get more money, right? Based on the amount of pounds of meat produced, based on the growth rate, right? At the end of the growing period. So do your conclusion. After conclusion, you want to indicate any limitation that you might have encountered. And so what are some of the things that were out of your control that affect the investigation? Some could be heat stress, could be rising temperature, especially if it's in the summer or close to the summer, and of course COVID-19 pandemic. All right, so based on your limitations, you want to give some recommendations, and some could be that you want to improve the biosecurity, so you want to install foot bath, and you also want to prevent trafficking in and around your poultry house. You want to install fans, so you want to increase or improve your ventilation or heat extractor. You also would want to improve or to develop a better system of litter management, the way you manage your litter, especially in the last 3 weeks, where you know that the ammonia fumes is higher, especially when the litter is being turned. Now this can affect the respiratory tract of the birds and cause high mortality, thus reduce your profit margin. Now your references. This should include all the literature that were cited in your discussion. So all the references or the literature cited in your discussion must be placed in this section. Alright, so we have come to the end of our part 2 of our part 3 series of school-based assessment, and so stay tuned for part 3. Now extra classes coming soon. Do you want to get ready for CXC in 4th and 5th form? Do you want to make up for what you have missed during last school year? Make contact for more information at agrology907@gmail.com. Classes starting soon on Mondays from 5 to 7 p.m. The platform will be Google Meet and Google Classroom. Now you can have more information. Alright, so makeup classes coming soon, and for human and social biology it will be on Mondays 7 to 5 p.m. starting September 6, 2021, and for agricultural science Wednesdays 5 to 7 p.m. starting September 8, 2021. Cost per subject $1,005 per week. Google Meet and Google Classroom will be used as the teaching learning platform. Contact us at agrology907@gmail.com or call 450-8766 to book your spot for your classes. For further information, subscribe to ALS Agrology Mecca. Remember to stay tuned for part 2 as you subscribe, you comment, and share. Stay tuned, part 3 coming up.